I probably look like a clown right now. I promise this will come together, or at least I hope so. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today's video is going to be a little bit different, not in terms of what I'm talking about, but the outline or setup, if you want to call it, for the video. I'm going to attempt doing a manga related yap session while I do my makeup. And I'm using the word attempt because it's not something I've ever done before. I'm not even sure if this setup looks good the way I have it right now, even though I'm working with a bit of a tight space. But I'll give myself about 10 to 15 minutes to see if it's working out, and if it's not, I will just scrap this portion of the video, finish my makeup, and then probably film later. And you might be wondering why I'm even wearing makeup. I think I look good without it, honestly, but I recently got my hair done. The color is a tad bit brighter than I expected, and I just think wearing makeup is going to make it look a little better, or I'm just going to feel more comfortable if I'm wearing makeup, so the color doesn't feel as harsh as it looks to me, at least. So okay, let's get started. I should probably mention that it's been a hot minute since I wore makeup. I used to love wearing makeup a lot, but ever since the pandemic, the frequency of how much I wore it decreased drastically. I think this is probably the first time I'm going to be wearing makeup this year. We're in October, and the last time I wore it last year was at my friend's wedding, which was in July. So it's been over, okay, not quite 18 months, maybe almost 16 months. Which is crazy because I used to love wearing makeup. Like, I wore it to work, all my classes, and even when I first started this channel, I used to try to wear makeup whenever I was about to film. But yeah, all of that to mention that if I look like an amateur, that's because I'm trying to figure my way out around how I used to do my makeup in the past. But yeah, that's enough yapping about makeup. Today's video is meant to be about manga. So I wanted to talk about my manga reread project, as well as some manga I've been enjoying reading this year. So the reread project is basically just for manga I've probably read in the past, or that I used to love, that I would love to revisit and see if they hold up to how I used to feel about them, or just rereading because I love them so much. So some of them that I've read so far this year would be everything by Ayazawa, 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤, and Paradise Kiss were rereads for me. 𝕤𝕤𝕤, I didn't read the last volume the first time I read 𝕤𝕤𝕤 just because of what happened at the beginning of volume 21. If you're familiar with 𝕤𝕤𝕤, you probably know what I'm talking about. And it took me a while to come to terms with reading where the manga stopped, since it's been on hiatus for so long. As for Paradise Kiss, I just think it's a really fun series. Her other series that are now available in print in English, wow, this isn't going well because I didn't clean my brows, but yeah, her other series that are now available in print in English, so Last Quarter and Neighborhood Story. I don't know why I blanked for a minute there, almost like I'd said something incorrectly. But those two I also read this year already, and I had a great time with all of them. I really love Ayazawa's sense of humor. The way she puts humor into her writing is something that I feel like I just really connect with, and that makes her series quite fun for me, even while she's exploring deeper topics in some of her manga. Let's see. I have a list of the manga I've read this year on my phone. So I've reread those. I reread Kimi ni Toroke. Well, that wasn't much of a reread for me. I was mostly familiar with the anime for Kimi ni Toroke, and I read the manga this year. It was good. I had a really good time with it. I wouldn't go as far as calling it like my favorite romance series of all time, although I absolutely adored the character development for a lot of the characters, actually, not just Kazihaya and Sawako, even the side characters, so her friends, Ayane and Shizu. Yeah. Ayane and Shizu, I really loved their character developments. And even the other girl that used to have like the hugest crush on Kazihaya that now has her own spin-off series. I'm just remembering that she has her own spin-off series. I was going to try to read the first volume because I picked it up either earlier this year or last year. So it was 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕚𝕬𝕐. And I cannot remember if I decided to bring that first volume with me or not. Oh, I think I can see it on my shelf. So I did bring it. I completely forgot I was trying to read that, but yeah, I'm going to try to read that. I don't know how well this is working out. It looks like I can only focus on one thing at a time, but yeah. So this month I'm trying to reread Blackbird and 𝕤𝕁𝕤𝕤𝕬𝕐. Blackbird. That series had me in a chokehold when I was a teenager. Now, granted, there are some problematic themes in the story, but honestly, that was not what I was focusing on when I first read it as a teenager. I was more focused on how attractive the men in the series were.
I mean, come on, look at them. Especially this guy in front with the low ponytail. He was my favorite.
They were so insanely attractive, and I loved like the fantasy aspect of it, the fact that they were all like tengu. I don't know if you can call it wardrobe for a manga series, but the attire that the character designs, I guess, of the characters in the series, I was also obsessed with. And honestly, I just had a really good time with it. I picked up the box set last year, and that is one series for sure that I'm going to try to read to see if it has held up for how much I used to love it as a teenager. So the goal is to try to read all of it this year. I'll see, well, this month actually. I'll see how that goes, because we're about halfway through the month and I haven't even started reading it. Same thing for 𝕤𝕁𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕬𝕐. I was going to try to read all of it this month, but again, we'll see how that goes. The others I'm trying to read this year are Ouran High School Host Club and 𝕤𝕬𝕤𝕚𝕬𝕐. 𝕤𝕬𝕤𝕚𝕬𝕐 I never did finish, and I still need to pick up the final omnibus of the series before I can start reading it. But yeah, those are the series that I'm trying to read this year, and I will see how they hold up to my memory of them. I think I'm okay with how this is going. I might have to do a lot of editing so I can cut out a lot of ums and just weird pauses in my speech, but I guess it doesn't hurt to try something different every once in a while. Okay, my phone is being very slow, but I already have the list pulled up on my iPad. The first manga series I read at the beginning of the year was The Other World's books Depend on the Bean Counter. I'm reading the manga. Honestly, it's been a hot minute since I read that one, and I haven't read it since whatever volume I read at the beginning of the year. I can't even remember what volume it was right now. And I think I started to struggle with the series because with all the breaks in between volumes, I couldn't really follow what was going on in the series anymore, even though there were parts, like aspects of it that I really, really enjoyed. But I think what I'm going to do is just leave it to pick up later when the series is complete so I can read all of it again in one go. Or since they're making light novels for it, I will see if my library decides to get the series so I can read the light novel through my library. Or if they don't get it, I can request it. They actually do pretty decent with picking up tons of series that I'm interested in, so that might be another option to explore for that series. But I haven't really read past that first volume that I read at the beginning of the year. Then the next one was 𝕄𝕬𝕤𝕐𝕐 Diaries. I started from where the first season of the anime left off. I think that was like volume 8, and I read through either volume 12 or 13 during the Northern Haunt, you know, the incident, the frog incident. And at that point, I believe that was all that was released in English at the point, but I have since then switched to the light novels, and I have been buddy reading it with a friend. Right now, we just finished volume 4 of the light novel, and I think that's right around where, no, that's exactly where season 2 of the anime ended, and the next one we're going to read together is the 5th volume. So whenever we do pick it up, it will be completely new material for me. That's the 𝕄𝕬𝕤𝕐𝕐 Diaries. Still really enjoying it. I think, what's her name? 𝕒𝕉𝕉𝕚 is a phenomenal main character. I know I look crazy right now because of the concealer that I'm using on my eyebrows, but just give it some time. It's gonna come together. That's how makeup usually goes. Hopefully you know that. And if you don't, just trust me. And then I read 𝕞𝕦𝕤𝕚. I believe I already mentioned that. I had a really good time with that series. I honestly don't know how Ayazawa was able to fit in so many intense and I believe quite realistic topics into the struggles of the characters in Nana, and I believe that's what makes people so drawn to it. Even though I know some people are not exactly like the biggest fans of the art, I don't know if it ever really mattered to me. I loved the music, the stylistic choices of the series, and that was what initially drew me to Nana the first time I watched and read it, and then I stayed for the story. I don't know if I have a favorite character. I remember being extremely judgy towards Nana Komatsu. I believe that's Hachi. Nana Komatsu, I think is her last name. The first time I read it, but on reading it a second time around, I don't know. Even though she's an imperfect character, she still sometimes feels like the most well-rounded in comparison to the others, because her biggest problem is the fact that she has this very strong desire to be loved that makes her make very terrible choices sometimes. And honestly, I cannot understand where that came from. It's almost like she has daddy issues, even though for all intents and purposes, her upbringing, her parents look very normal. It doesn't look like she had like a terrible experience with her parents or anything. I'm trying to remember if she's the middle child, and maybe that might be part of why she struggles with this desire to be loved. Maybe she didn't get as much attention and love from her parents while she was growing up. I honestly just don't really understand it, because like I said, she seems to have a normal upbringing. So some of the things that she struggles with as a character, I always try to make a connection to how her nurture might have played a part in some of those struggles that she has. And I say that because you have characters like Ren, for example, or Nana Osaki. They were orphans growing up, and they probably have like lots of abandonment issues. Someone like Nana, for example, you know that she is just hell-bent on trying to make something for herself, to the extent of even being able to let go of someone that she loved so desperately. And her and Ren also have this very almost toxic codependency on each other, while also holding on to the idea of wanting to be very successful in their careers. But I feel like a lot of that you can probably tie it to the fact that they were orphans, and there's just something that they crave in terms of connection or emotional attachment to another human being. So that makes sense for the both of them. Or even a character like, crap, what's his name? The guitarist in Blackstones. I can't remember his name, but the child, he's a teenager that prostitutes himself, and 𝕒𝕬𝕬𝕬 slips. You know what? I'm going to try not to judge these characters, because there's just so much going on in Nana at any point in time. Regardless of when you get into the series, there's always so much going on. But again, there are things going on in each of those families, in each of those characters' families, that contributes to some of the choices that they make. He, for example, is, I think, like a mistress's son, and it doesn't seem like his father has accepted him. So throughout the series, I don't think he even lives at home. And there's a sense of abandonment there as well that contributes to a lot of the choices he makes, and so many other characters. But I had a great time with Nana. It will continue to be one of my favorite series, even with its incomplete status, which is absolutely crazy to me. And I would not, on a normal day, recommend an incomplete series to people. But regardless of the incomplete status of Nana, I still feel like there's a lot to love in the story, to pick apart, to enjoy, or even explore in some of the topics and struggles of the characters that Ayazawa was able to fit into it. Oh, it is just such a great series. I know I've rambled a lot, but yeah, I loved rereading Nana Paradise Kiss. I really enjoyed reading that as well. Since I already yapped so much about Nana, I'm not going to bother talking about Paradise Kiss. I feel like to an extent it also kind of had the same like setup, except that it was also showbiz, but it was more focused on the world of like fashion design and modeling. Same thing for Neighborhood Story, although that had a more like home and community aspect to it. But I really enjoyed that one as well. Last quarter was a little bit different, but I still felt like that Homer code that she had in the other series that I've already mentioned before was also somewhere there. I will admit to a little bit of confusion because it had like that supernatural aspect to it, but I think it all came together nicely. But yeah, that was Ayazawa. Then I've been reading Sasaki Amiyano. That's forever going to be a favorite. I love that series so much. Let's see, what else do we have here? If you look at my manga on haul video, I think I mentioned in that video why I decided not to keep all of those volumes. Stomp Kick Love, it gave rapey vibes. I was not a fan of it. Senpai This Can't Be Love, I just thought it was boring. Let's Do It Already, a bit too juvenile for my taste, so I won't be reading much more of that. Another new series that I tried was Fall in Love You False Angels. I actually really enjoyed that one, and I borrowed the second volume from the library recently, and I'm still enjoying it. At first, when you pick it up, it has the same setup as, well, maybe not the same setup, but it almost feels like Kaguya-sama. What is the subtitle of that series? Let's just say if it has the same setup as Kaguya-sama. So like the president and her vice president, two super hot commodities in their high school, I guess you could call them. And they have hidden sides. Like, just imagine the most giant eye roll ever for that hidden side in the synopsis, because I didn't think their so-called hidden sides were so terrible enough to warrant being hidden. But I guess in a society like Japan that probably places a lot of emphasis on how people present themselves, I can see why they might want to hide that part of themselves. But where the story starts to stray away from Kaguya-sama is the fact that these two are not in competition with each other to see who says they like each other first, and they genuinely seem to enjoy having someone to share this part of themselves that they never really get to show to other people with each other. And by the end of the second volume, this is a little bit of a spoiler, I can't remember the name of the characters, unfortunately, but the girl has realized her feelings for the male lead, and she tells him that she likes him. It doesn't seem like she's doing it to get anything out of it either. Like, she doesn't seem to need him to say it back or get like them dating each other out of this confession, which is very refreshing in a series like that. So I've been enjoying that one. I already requested the third volume from my library. Unfortunately, my local library doesn't have the series, but they were able to borrow the second volume from another neighboring library and send it to my local library for me to pick up. So I requested third volume from the same library, and I'm hoping it becomes available soon so I can keep reading the series. But if it doesn't, I might just pick it up myself and give it a read, because I'm really curious to see how the series continues from where the end of the second volume left off. This foundation is much redder than I remember. I might have to neutralize that a lot with my concealer. But yeah, that was Fall in Love You False Angels. Let's see, what else do I have here? Reliving My Life with a Boyfriend That Doesn't Remember Me. Was it the beginning of this year that I read the first volume, or I feel like it was last year. I did enjoy the first volume. I wanted more from the series, so I picked up volumes 2 and 3. I enjoyed them, but I don't know that I enjoyed reading them enough to keep picking up physical copies of the series. Will I keep reading it if I come across it? Possibly, but it doesn't necessarily feel like a priority right now. So that's where that series stands. And then we have Innocent. I feel like I've mentioned the fact that I won't be reading beyond 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕬𝕤 to picking up 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕬𝕤 on one of my videos. Because my manga content has been very sparse this year, I honestly can't remember which video specifically I mentioned that in, but I love the art of this series and the design as well, but the story kind of lost me somewhere along the way, and I don't really feel the need to pick up 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕬𝕤 at the moment. Because I love the art, maybe in the future I'll consider like giving it a reread just to see how I feel about it, but again, that's not really a priority for me at the moment. Then we have Colette Decides to Die. This is one of my new favorites. It is such an amazing series. I read the first omnibus at the beginning of the year, and I recently read omnibus 2, 3, and 4, and the story just keeps getting better. I feel like I've rated every single volume that I read so far 5 stars, which is very rare, but it is such a refreshing, heartwarming series. I don't know what other adjectives to use to describe it there. And honestly, when you first read the synopsis and hear the mention of 𝕍𝕐𝕐, you probably expect the story to have like a darker theme to it. But it's just so heartwarming. I don't know what other words to use to describe it. It is such a beautiful series. So the story is about an apothecary called Colette who gets overwhelmed by her job as an apothecary because she's the only apothecary of the town or the village, whatever you want to call it, that she lives in. And she makes a drastic choice to escape by jumping down a well somewhere in this village that she lives in. And instead of jumping to her death, she finds out that this well somehow connects to the underworld that is led by 𝕍𝕐𝕐. So 𝕍𝕐𝕐 is the king of the underworld. But when she gets there, she finds out that he has been dealing with an illness that no one has been able to help him with. And that was how she started working as a healer for the king of the underworld as well. And she just builds this very adorable relationship with him and all his servants. So all his servants in the other world, they're like skeletons with faces and personalities. It is the cutest thing ever. This is honestly such a cute series. I don't know how else to describe it. It makes me so happy. And what's it called? The development of Colette's relationship with 𝕍𝕐𝕐 is the sweetest thing ever. 𝕍𝕐𝕐 is such a sweetheart. Like, I can't remember the last time I read about like almost like a god and a human falling in love and it didn't feel weird and almost exploitative. This feels like super genuine and like the both of them are meant to be together. I just love it. It is such a sweet series. I am so excited for the rest of it. Definitely one of my favorite reads from this year. I'm obsessed with both of them. This video is getting very long. My Beautiful Man. I read the first and second volumes. I'm in a group of other manga readers where someone recommended picking this one up, and I did because they just want, not because they love it or anything, but because I believe they'd watched the drama and they decided to try reading it and wanted to hear what my opinion on the series was. It's a little bit different, but it definitely has a very intriguing synopsis or intriguing setup in the story. I don't know that I'll be picking up more of the manga, but I believe the light novel has just 3 volumes, so I will consider switching to that in the future. Just a second, I don't think this blender is doing a great enough job without getting wet, so I will go with it and I'll be right back. Okay, it is now wet and bouncy. I think that would do a much better job of blending, but as I was saying, I believe My Beautiful Man has exactly 3 volumes in the light novel. So whenever I do decide to get back to the series, I believe I'd rather just read those 3 light novel volumes rather than multiple volumes of the manga. I can't remember if I decided to keep the volumes of the manga that I purchased or if I am unhauling it, since it's not necessarily something I'm going to keep in my collection if I'm not going to buy the remaining volumes. My iPad doesn't recognize my face anymore. I need to take a water break. Well, more of a soda break. This is not water. And then after My Beautiful Man, I started reading King's Beast. I was very excited about this because I read the, I don't know if you can call it like a sequel series, 𝕒𝕚𝕬𝕬𝕬. I can't remember what the English translation of the series is, but I read this a long time ago and I was very excited to be in that world again, but I did not enjoy the way the plot was executed. It is a very interesting concept, but I felt like the female lead, the half Ajin girl, she got over her grudge with the royal family in the span of like 2 volumes. A grudge you've been holding on for that long, you're just going to get over it. I don't know, I found that way too hard to accept. And the prince, he's pretty. I'm going to admit that that's partly why I picked up the series. I am a character design whore. But in a cutthroat world like that, I don't know if your nice tea and the way he approaches life is going to cut it. I know this might sound a little bit morbid or even terrible, but I can understand why the other princes feel like they can do whatever the fuck they want with his servant. I'm not at all surprised that, I believe the female lead, I just remember her name, is Rangetsu, that her twin brother got killed, probably as like a sign or warning to the prince 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤 or something like that. Like, none of that is shocking to me. I didn't enjoy the execution of the plot at all, so I decided to unhaul that from my collection. I probably look like a clown right now. I promise this will come together, or at least I hope so. And if it doesn't, remember I mentioned at the beginning of the video that it's been a hot minute since I did my makeup. So just keep that in mind. Let's see, I already talked about Last Quarter and Neighborhood Story. I've been reading Cherry Magic. I absolutely loved this when I read it for the first time last year. Don't Call It Mystery, that was one of my favorites from last year as well. Firefly Wedding, I picked up the first volume. I read it, very different from what I expected, but I'm having a good time with it. It's not really a priority for me to keep reading it at the moment, so I might have to push that into next year, but I'm definitely curious to see where this story is going. Then I have Run Away With Me Girl. I decided to unhaul all 3 volumes of that series. I hated it so much. And the funny thing is, I rated the first volume 5 stars. So there's a video I have on my channel, I do remember this, where I read the first volume of a couple of GL manga series that I had, or that I wanted to read. And I rated the first volume of Run Away With Me Girl 5 stars. I'm sure there's a lot I said about the series in that video that is just going to be much better than anything I have to say about it right now, because my rage over how volumes 2 and 3 were executed have overcome any good feelings I had about the first volume of the series. What a disappointing wrap up to the series. There was so much that could have been done with that story, and it just took a nosedive from the first volume. Honestly, I was so disappointed. I felt like the author was focusing on trying to get the 2 girls together, and she just swept a lot of their emotional trauma and struggles under the rug, even though that was mostly one of the main things that I was excited to see how they were going to be explored in the series, and where most of my rage over how volumes 2 and 3 played out comes from. I was so pissed off. I immediately threw all 3 of them in my unhaul pile, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that series. Skip and loafer. On to better things. My first introduction to this series was through the anime when it first came out, and I just adored Mitsumi so much. She's still one of my favorite female characters at the moment, possibly even forever, but I loved her so much. I still love her so much. I believe I own volumes 1 through 10, and I read volumes 11 and 12 online, and I don't remember where the English release is at the moment, but I just decided to start the series all over from the beginning, and I had a great time with it. It is such a great series. A lovely that's what I want to see in my coming of age. Mitsumi can be a little bit naive sometimes, but I feel like the way her naivety, I don't know how to pronounce that word, is written in the series is very, very endearing. It's not the kind of naivety that's annoying or that makes you want to take advantage of someone. It's the endearing kind that makes you want to root for the character, or that makes you want to protect them and just watch over them, and also make sure that whatever dreams they have are going to come true. And that's exactly how I feel about her as a character, and just all our different relationships in the story. I love the way they explored like her female friendships, like that mini group of like misfits. There was that super popular girl, I can't remember their names at the moment, and then well, she wasn't popular at the beginning of the series, but she's like the really pretty girl that was kind of, she came off as kind of standoffish at the beginning of the series, but once you start getting to know her as a character, you know why that is. And then there was also the character that had, she didn't really have a crush on what's the name of the male lead? Fuck, I can't remember his name, sorry. Let me see if I took any notes on the series. Sosuke, yes. Oh, I took notes on the series. Okay, Shima is the male lead. The girl that I'm talking about that had kind of a crush on him is Mika. I also loved her character development in the series so far. And then the popular girl I was talking about is Murashige Yuzuki. There's also Makoto, who was like a nerd. Honestly, almost the same type of character as Mitsumi. Mitsumi is just a lot more open and honest because she's not jaded by high school or experiencing how mean teenagers can be, because she comes from a small town where everyone just accepted her and everyone in her class were just friends, you know. And that's partly where her naivety as a character comes from, but it works in her favor throughout the series. Okay, this is coming together. I don't know if you can see it. It looks really weird on camera, but it looks good in front of my mirror. But yeah, that's another series that is currently one of my ongoing favorites. Let's see, what else do I want to talk through here? I'm so sorry of how long this video is about to be. Okay, Skip and Loafer. Then I read Kimi no Toroke, which luckily I already talked about. What else? Fruits Basket. Oh my god. So I'd never read Fruits Basket before I read it this year. I watched the very first adaptation of the anime. I can't remember when that was released, and then I watched the remake of the adaptation of the anime, and I absolutely loved that. The animation was beautiful, but I also think because there were breaks in between the release of the seasons, it gave you time to catch up on whatever angst there was in the series, as opposed to feeling all of it in one go, which was what reading the manga felt like. There was no breaks for me. I decided to just read all of it in one go, and I remember reading it while I was moving away from my former apartment after I got laid off, and it was so good. One of my all-time favorites. Now, this is a series that has kept up with the idea I had of it as a teenager when I first encountered it, even though it was via the anime. Reading the manga has just solidified it as one of my favorites of all time, and I just had such a great experience with it. It's so well written. Of course, there's the problematic aspect of the teacher-student relationships in this manga. Like, gross. I know you get that in a lot of Japanese manga, so I always try to just pretend that it isn't there. Not that it's not a big deal, it is very much a big deal, but the story doesn't focus on that aspect of the relationships as much as it does on the other relationships of the members of the Zodiac. So I could kind of just pretend that it wasn't there and focus on the rest of the story, if that makes any sense. I guess what I'm trying to say is that even though that was an icky part of the series, it didn't really take away from my overall enjoyment of the series, so I'm willing to give it a pass in that sense. And then the next one I have is 𝕤𝕕𝕬𝕚. This is one I used to love so much. I have the entire series. I brought it with me to my sister's place, and I actually tried rereading it. I think it was last month, or maybe 2 months. No, it was 2 months ago. I read the first and second omnibus, but I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it, but I didn't make it past that. Something about it just wasn't working for me. I know I'm still going to try to get back to it later, but I haven't read past those 2 omnibuses, which covers volumes 1 through 4 of the series, and I don't know that I'll be going back to it anytime soon, so my reread of that series might not be for until next year, is what I meant to say. I've been seeing a lot of discourse online about Usui's character and how he's a red flag. Are there some jokes that feel out of place, like him, what's it called, raising up her, her skirt to look at what color of undies she's wearing? Like, that's not funny. But aside from that, calling him a red flag, I think, is taking things a little bit too far. I don't know. But again, that's something that I will have to see how I feel about when I read the entire series again, whenever I do get to it. I don't know if that was the right brush to use for that, but I have a new brush set here, and I'm just trying to use whatever is in the set as opposed to my old brushes, because I haven't cleaned those in a while, and it would be a bad idea to do that. I'm not trying to get an infection, so yeah. Anyway, that was 𝕤𝕕𝕬𝕚. Then let's see, what other new series have I tried recently? Oh, it looks like we've come to the end of all the manga I've been reading recently. Everything else looks to be like one-shots, like BL one-shots. It's always BL one-shots. Luckily, I haven't read a whole lot of those this year, and I say luckily because I always get art baited into picking up a bunch of them, and they always turn out to be ass. Like, I think I need to do better with just randomly buying BL one-shots. What happens is that I tell myself that, oh, it's just 1 volume. I have nothing to lose if I pick this up. When, in all honesty, there's a lot to lose because they add up. So yeah, I'm glad that I haven't done that as much this year. And that is pretty much everything I've been reading this year. I don't know. I guess I'll see how this video turned out when I'm editing it. The yapping aspect was probably not as smooth as it would have been if I wasn't doing my makeup. So I don't know how that will look like in an actual video. Just me talking for like a period of time and then pausing to do blending or whatever I'm doing at the time. And then I talk again. I yap, and then go back to my makeup. Yap, go back to my makeup. But yeah. That's all the manga I've been reading. Oh, I also mentioned that I want to read 𝕤𝕚𝕐𝕑𝕬𝕐 this month. That one isn't even a matter of I want to see how it holds up to how the image I have of it. 𝕤𝕚𝕐𝕑𝕬𝕐 is one of my favorite manga of all time. So I just want to revisit it as an adult because the last time I read it, I was a teenager. So that's pretty much why I'm rereading that one. I'd actually thought that I could do this as a little bit of a yap session, do my makeup, and then start a reading vlog of Blackbird and 𝕤𝕚𝕐𝕑𝕬𝕐. But with the way the length of this video is going, I don't think that's something that's possible. I think I've done enough for my face at this point. See, it doesn't look too bad. I hope this is coming across the way it looks in the mirror. I'm just going to do a blush real quick, maybe some highlighter, and I will call it a day. Oh, I completely forgot I was going to try to wear eyeshadow, but I don't know that that's necessary at this point since the video is already technically over. Maybe some other time. I don't know. I'll see how this video actually looks when I'm trying to edit it. It's looking a bit of an epic fail right now, but I'm still going to post it because, well, effort went into that. And the best part of this is now that I'm done filming, I can go and do whatever else I plan to do today. And I'll have my lovely makeup on for the rest of the day. I feel bonita. I feel good. Let's bring the hair forward. I think it looks so much better now that I'm wearing makeup. But that might just be a me thing because that's how I wanted it to look. I'm going to wear my earrings as well. I'm not going anywhere, by the way. If I was going somewhere, I would have done a little bit of eye makeup. Also worn some lashes because I think it pulls the look together very nicely. I actually have some new pairs that I would have loved to give a try today, but since I'm not going anywhere, that's not something that's necessary. And I will wrap this up by using some new lip liners that I got recently and just put a gloss over it. I got all three of this from the beauty supply store. You can see they're all in like the same color like family that kind of goes with the color of my hair. That one at the bottom looks a little bit too white for what I'm going for. The other two are a nude and no, that's not correct, a wine and a deep red. I don't know if I should mix them or just go with one. I'm going to go with the wine. Also perfectly goes with the season of like fall / Halloween. Where's my slow mirror? This always happens when I'm trying to multitask. Okay, there it is. So we're just going to wear that. Oh, that's really nice. I'm trying to think of what lipstick I have that will look good with this. I cannot, like, honestly. Why did I stop wearing makeup? Okay, let's look for something. Gloss. This is like a nude lipstick. It's not matte or anything, but I think it will look, yeah, like a nude pink lipstick. And once I'm done, I'm just going to pose in front of the camera for some thumbnail shots and hope that they turn out decent. I don't know, should I leave it like that or try to go over it with some gloss? It may look better glossy. Yeah, not bad. Am I lying to myself? I think it looks pretty good, but that was the video for today. I hope you enjoyed watching it, whatever day you find yourself watching it. Make it a great one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.